back. Back from
We
yesterday.
are back. Morning, my friend.
Good morning.
Oh, God. Can't believe that we're setting up early streams just to capture everyone, but I like it. I need to get up at 6. So excited. So excited. Oh, well, I had to do my stretches and grab my coffee and get ready. You know,
Well,
this is not easy. This is not easy to get ready for streams.
Workouts with Christos.
Oh God, you know what? At the age of 42, doing stretches is not a fun thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like torturing myself on purpose, but it has to be done. It has to be done.
Well, I'm sitting on a piece of outdoor patio furniture. I've added a second cushion underneath me, so I'm a little higher up today. So maybe my back won't. I won't feel like I'm spitting vertebrae out of my back for the rest of the afternoon, like I did yesterday.
Well, you went and bought a chair, a screen. You should have gone and bought a chair as well and a desk. Just set up home.
I know, but I'll be home in like a week or two. I don't know when I'm going home. It's summertime.
You don't know.
Summertime up here is way better than summertime at home, because at home it's like 4 million degrees.
And moist, right? That's the problem. You got a lot of humidity.
You walk outside and you just sweat, and there's nowhere for it to go in the air. So you're sort of like Charlie Brown, just wandering around with a cloud over your head of perpetual dampness. It's miserable.
What you need is a portable aircon. That's what you need.
I know. Well, my kids are here with their cousins, so I don't even see them. I see them when they wake up, and I see them at night. They're like, "Hey, Daddy, I had a great time today." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm glad you did. Where have you been all day?"
This is what summer is all about. I mean, this is what we did when we were young, right?
Well,
Being outdoors all day, disappearing, and then parents would only see us at sunset.
Yeah, I mean, coronavirus, it's pretty much all the time now. So, my wife's
don't even go there.
Like, should we go home? Because the kids won't have anybody to play with when they get home. At least we know that my, sister-in-law and nieces aren't running around hanging out with a bunch of people that can't wear a mask. All right.
Yeah, let's not.
Anyway, all right. So yesterday, we were having this issue with the cache key yesterday.
Well, we had two issues, remember? We had a logout and we had the cache key.
That's true.
Not getting it. Yeah.
So there were two issues. So the logout issue, I sorted that out by changing and correcting the
redirect URL?
Authentication scheme to use the correct.
So what was it before and what are we using now?
Well, I was trying to reuse the external identities one they were using before in the sample.
Okay.
And that wasn't working. So I think there's just too much sort of legacy hangover, if you want to call it that. There's too much extra code in there, and without going through every line of it to figure out exactly what it was doing, I just thought, it makes a whole lot more sense for us to just use ON as intended. So after that, the thing I realized was, because our cache wasn't working, the thing I realized was that when I came in here to look, our cache keys in the after access and before access were null. I was like, okay, why are they null? So then I went out to GitHub, and I searched for suggested cache key, and there's a bug. So it was a bug.
And so there was an open issue on that code?
There was. So not on this code, on MSAL.
Okay.
So it's been fixed in like 4.17, I think, but I don't think it's fully out to NuGet yet. So the workaround for now is to use the account off of the args, the home account ID and the identifier. One of the things that you'll notice MSAL does is, and I haven't seen this really well documented anywhere, is that typically the cache key ends up being something like this: tenant ID dot object ID. But this is home object ID, which in our case, because we're single tenant, it doesn't really matter, because your home object ID will be the same in both, since you're in a single tenant, you're in your main tenant. But it's possible that you may have guests, in which case their object IDs may be a little bit different. So, if we go and look, I'm just going to run it again, and if we go and look at what the key is, when we're using it to acquire here, the cache key was never being set. And if you look at the code, if the cache key was null or empty, it was just bailing in both cases.
Right, okay.
So we were never actually writing to the cache.
Gotcha.
So this was one of the suggested workarounds in the GitHub issue. And of course this has been fixed in future, in the next rev, so we don't have to worry about it. But it's fine right now here, but we need to go update our user profile controller where we are creating a new MSAL object to make sure that we're sending in the correct ID. And you sort of end up in a chicken and egg scenario, right? Where here I've got a cache key because I'll have it from when the cache gets set by by swapping out the authorization code. The cache key gets set because we have an account, right? The account being the account that was used to swap out the token, right? Or the one that came back when we swapped out the token, or swapped out the code for the token. The problem, though, is since that's our cache key, when we go to pull it back in the user profile later, we don't know the cache key. And so trying to do a get accounts, which we were doing yesterday, remember this was get accounts, to try to get the list of all of them? Well, we couldn't. It was empty because there's no cache key set, because there's no account. And so you kind of end up in this weird spot where it's like, hey, go get all the accounts. But then it's like, well, you don't have a cache key, so I don't know which cache to go pull, because otherwise I'm empty, because I'm brand new, right?
Yep.
So there's some wonkiness there. And I don't think it makes sense when you think through it, but you have to understand all of the pieces that go into that before you're like, oh, this makes sense as to why it's behaving the way it is. But it's not really explicitly documented anywhere, but this is the way it behaves. So we should probably get that sorted, because I had a similar problem building a presence notifier, and I wanted to load up a token cache for each one. So I think we ought to invite Jean-Marc on here and just do an Ask Me Anything on MSAL and token caches. But but anyway, so we need an object ID, or we need an ID to put in here. So I'm just going to call this for now. It's just a string. I'll just call this the cache key, and it's going to end up being the tenant ID. I'm just going to do string.empty for the moment, dot string.empty. And then we're going to load that up with some data from the claim set, because we should have both of those pieces of data in the claims. So the other one is the tenant ID. So the tenant ID, there are two different claims. So we could do a type where the type is just TID, because in V2 tokens you'll get TID. And then our cache key will be, so I don't even know, like, you really shouldn't get here if you're not authenticated. And if you're authenticated, we should have a claims identity. I don't know if we actually need this anymore, because we could guard on user object ID and tenant ID being available. So
yeah, exactly. Maybe it's a check that we don't need to.
Yeah, so for the moment, I'm going to bail on those. And the cache key is tenant ID dot user object ID. And let's see, we get rid of this one, get rid of this one, get rid of...
And just to clarify, the user object ID will always be different for each user, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact, I don't even know if name identifier is really the right one we should use. I mean, we could also use sub, although the subject is going to change. There's also OID. In fact, I wonder if we have a tenant one. I don't think we do, but let's see if we've got a tenant one in claim types. No. We also have...
What? There's an enum for claim types?
Yep. In fact,
so you can use that instead of the long, annoying strings, trying to work out what to use?
Yep.
Oh, God. Now you're telling me?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, so in older ASP.NET, they were always like this, like these super long schema, you know, like sort of fully qualified names. And there are certain things you need to do with the claims. Like, at one point, you would copy all the claims out of the incoming object into a new object. Mm-hmm. So you'd end up sort of mapping both of them together. And so you'd end up with, like, name identifier like this with, you know, schemas.xml soap, blah, 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 blah. And you'd also end up with one called just name identifier, if that's what you wanted to call it, right?
Yes, yes.
So parsing and reading claims, especially in older .NET, has always been a little confusing, but I think most of it's sort of probably just sort of some legacy stuff from the old, like, WS-Fed and SAML stuff, you know. So, in fact, I'll put a breakpoint here because I'm not entirely sure if not entirely sure if tenant ID is going to come back in the TID claim or if it's going to come back somewhere else, or if we have to go and get it ourselves. So, so we'll put it there, and let's run it. You know what I'm tempted to do too? I'm going to turn off opening the browser because it's super annoying because it opens up a different one every time, and I'll just use my browser.
And you can open your own browser and then navigate to the port.
So I don't want it to start on a page. Don't open a page. Wait for a request. Cool. IIS, unfortunately.
No other choice. No other choice.
I wonder, is there any way to make this faster? I guess not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remove half the code, I suppose.
Let's remove half the dependencies, right?
Have you done any searches for? You know what? I think it's using Entity Framework to store the user information into a database, a local database. I think that's what the problem is. Well, but oh my God, look at the dependencies over there.
Let's see, SQL Object Explorer. We'll go look in our local DB. I should probably wipe this database too because it's probably got a bunch of junk in it from the past 2 days of messing with it. So let's see what databases we've got. EF providers in memory. Oh, okay.
It's in memory.
Is that? Well, I don't know. There are a couple over here. Oh no. ASP.NET roles, ASP.NET user claims. Yeah. ASP.NET user logins. Man, this is a throwback. Goodness.
Yes.
So let's do this. Delete. Close. Yeah, get rid of all of it. Launch it directly into the sun. Okay? And then I don't have SQL Data Explorer or Azure Data Explorer on here. That's what I've been using instead of SSMS. I don't think I've got it on here right now. Or no.
Data Explorer is fantastic, by the way. If people have not seen it, it's the new iteration of SSMS, or SQL Server Management Studio. It works everywhere, cross-platform.
Data Studio, not Data Explorer. Data Explorer is different. I think that's fine. Isn't Explorer like the Custo browser or whatever?
You have Storage Explorer. Maybe that's why you're getting confused.
Well, I thought there was a Custo one. We'll sidetrack for a second. Azure Data Explorer. Or maybe it was for Databricks. Yeah. What is Azure Data Explorer? We got to get my buddy Vinny on here because he does a bunch of Azure Data stuff, and he complains about identity stuff all the time because he's like, you know, he's a data guy.
Because he doesn't know it.
Not a software guy. Yeah, he's a data guy, not a software guy. So, Yeah, Data Explorer. Oh yeah, so this is all the like warehousing and like modern BI, whatever they call it now.
I know we're sidetracking here and we're talking about other stuff, but have you seen the ARM template Explorer for VS Code? One of the CSAs in the UK wrote a tool that actually visualizes your ARM template.
Oh,
It's
nice.
absolutely stunning.
Is it like ArmViz?
Similar to that, but it's better.
Oh, nice.
It's got full endorsement. No, yeah, this is like if you go to VS Code ARM visualizer or something. Can't remember what the name was. It's absolutely stunning. So if people have not used that one, then it's highly recommended. ARM viewer maybe.
Oh, this one?
No, that's not the one. I need to find out what's his name. What's his name? Oh my God, there's my name like
Oh, there's your
seventh
name.
from the top.
There's your blog post.
Yeah.
Nice.
Didn't
Cool.
know that I had the visualizer. Oh yeah, that was a project that the I can't even remember writing that blog post. Oh my God.
ARM tools. Oh.
Yeah, but this is not the one. The one I'm telling you about is very recent. It only came out. You know what? Let me search for it while you're installing your Data Studio.
Well, yeah, it's an Electron app, so it only has 11 million files that it needs to extract.
Yeah, I know.
Gotta say, I don't really enjoy writing ARM templates.
You know what? The new extension for VS Code is stunning. It's really good.
Oh, that's good. I'm still not a big fan of doing
They
it.
fixed a lot. I know. It's not a fun activity, but they fixed a lot of things that were a nuance before, and they have a lot of templates. So you just drag and drop, or say I want to add a web app, and we'll bring all the dependencies down. Also,
You know what we could do? What if you were able to do your B2C XML custom policies deploy them via an ARM template? You'd have to escape XML in JSON.
ooh,
The only thing that somebody told me once, so they wanted to do B2C custom policies in YAML.
oh my God, no!
And I was like, oh, you're breaking up. I gotta go. And then promptly like ran off of the end of a cliff, burning.
Like I, at least with XML and JSON, you have terminators, you have brackets, some kind of a bracket that tells you that you start and you end.
Yeah.
With YAML, it's just like wild west, where the spaces take over.
I know.
Or tabs.
Oh boy. All right. Okay.
Sidetrack.
So,
I mean, we also like to talk about other crap rather than just identity, right?
Well, that's right. I mean, we do everything. We do all sorts of stuff around here. So we don't have to be pigeonholed. We can talk about identity, but we can talk about, I mean, identity touches everything anyway.
Indeed.
It's like a giant octopus. Okay, so this is building to run. We'll fire it up in the browser and see. Just see what claims we have. I know one of the things that's been helpful for me in the past is to have just a view in my app that shows all my claims, just to make it easier to see how, especially ASP.NET is seeing your claim set, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because sometimes the names are mapped to these to these types of names.
Do we need to set that CASCII as a constant that is available across the app? Are you gonna need to do that string interpolation anywhere else, or this is the only place that we're using the tenant ID, user object ID?
Well, the only problem is it's different per user, per request.
Yes, it will be. But what I'm saying is, do we need to create that as a constant string that you pass around rather than having to recreate it every time you need to use it?
Yeah.
Nah.
No, I don't think so.
It's fine. Yeah, let's focus on the task, ADAL to MSAL. I need to keep reminding myself that we're not rewriting the whole app from scratch.
Okay. I don't know if it's...
Yeah.
No. Okay, now it's going. Cranking. Rolling. I wonder if I can zoom in on what's going on down. Can I enlarge this text? No.
No, you cannot.
Also, while I'm waiting on this to build, I can't stand this dongle parade plugged into my laptop right now. It's completely miserable, and it doesn't work half the time.
Yeah, I know. Even the dock sometimes misbehaves.
I ordered a dock. I ordered a dock today.
You
It'll be here tomorrow because I can't. It's like I sneeze on the thing and it stops working. I got like $200 worth of dongles all plugged into each other, and they still don't work half the time.
Hey, at least it's not a Mac, right? Where you have to spend a fortune for the dongles, and you can't find the dock. So you went for the Surface dock, the $200 and something dollars.
Well, yeah, the dock 2, because I got a laptop 3, and I figured like I just want one 4K out at 60 hertz. Like,
yes.
So I'm traveling. I don't need more than that. I mean, we were on vacation up here, and so I bought a monitor, and we drove because of coronavirus instead of flying like we normally do. So I've got room to take this monitor home, but
well, you have to leave one kid behind, right?
What?
You have to leave one kid behind to take the monitor and the dock now.
They probably wouldn't. Those kids wouldn't argue with me today. They love being.
Yeah, Daddy, we'll see you next year. Bye.
Yeah, they love it up here. I mean, I love it because it's where my in-laws live. It's kind of the middle of nowhere, so the kids can just run and play outside. Don't have to worry about somebody running over them in the cul-de-sac or it's just a lot easier. So, all right.
Be careful when you make these statements in public and record it, because your wife can always refer back to them and say, "You said you love them. We should move here." Remember?
We talked about moving here. I'm very curious to see what coronavirus, all the changes people have made for coronavirus. Really curious to see what they do over time. So, okay. So we're signed in.
Okay, let's do this.
We're signed in. We got our authorization code. And MSAL is going to go swap it out for us, right? And now we're going to go into our cache method. And you'll notice the suggested cache key is null. And that was the bug, right? Because yesterday our code was just this. args equal, or args dot suggested cache key. So now if it's null, we're going to get the account, and then we're going to get the home, account ID, and then get the identifier. And if we look at the identifier, which I may have done ours backwards, if we look at the identifier, in fact, I'm almost certain I did do it backwards. This is my tenant ID, right?
Right.
So this should be my object ID. Now, admittedly, I don't know my object ID by heart. I know that's...
I'm disappointed. It's only 32 characters. You should know them.
I know you're disappointed, but let's go validate that actually is my... that is my object ID, so we can make sure that we've got our format correct. Users.
Oh, I like the shorthanded aad.portal.azure.com. I did not know that, so I learned something today. You can reach straight to Azure AD by doing that. Shortcut.
Yep. So here's my object ID, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same.
That's the same.
And sure enough,
that is the same.
It is. Good. So it's object ID dot tenant ID.
Yep.
So let's go change our code, because we're going to have to change that anyway. And if you look at some of the other sample code that was out there, like they've got some extension methods that largely do the same thing. So let's see. We want the user object ID dot tenant ID. Okay. All right. Let's get this fired up again.
Still no music, but we'll fix that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we have...
I found the brand music library. I got access yesterday.
Ah, nice.
It is...
Special?
I asked my nieces what they thought, because, you know, they're hip.
Okay.
And they didn't like most of it.
It's not K-pop, man. You can't ask the younger generation to do that. I doubt that we have K-pop in our library.
I don't know. We'll have to, in fact, that's probably something we should figure out. Is we got to get some good like background grooves that don't cost a fortune.
In the meantime, we'll have you entertain us with your beatboxing.
Well, the problem is, like, when you called me on Skype, the Skype ringer is a bit of an earworm.
Yes.
So it was kind of bugging me. All right, so we're back. We're ready. Let's go get signed in. Okay. So OpenID Connect. We go over to Azure AD. I'm already signed in. We're going to swap our auth code. Our suggested cache key is still null. Our identifier is here, so good. So now we will skip that, and now you'll notice this is how you interact with the cache. So this is a before access. So this is going to go try to fetch it based on that key. And then the token cache itself on the MSAL object, or on the args, which comes from the MSAL object, it has this deserialized MSAL v3 and has a token, and then you just give it the bytes that you got, if you got any, right?
Why is it v3? MSAL v3?
I don't know. That's just the name of that's just the method name. I think the method name. I think the method name stuck at v3. There were some transitional things available for migrating from like older MSAL and from like reusing caches between ADAL and MSAL, and so I think that's why a lot of those are still there. So here again, now we're in the after access. So now the cache has been accessed, and our cache key is not null or empty. So now we're going to set the cache key, and we're going to have the serialized cache in there. And I think it's a 48-hour cache. When is the 10th? 2 days from now. So
yeah, Friday.
Okay. So now we've got something in the cache, which is fantastic. So now our cache has actually been hydrated, and now we just have to go back and get it. Now, this is some of the basic stuff that we had from that's built into this sample. So we're creating a local user object that matches our remote user object. Kind of B2C-esque, really. So, okay, cool. Because remember, we deleted our database. So.
Correct.
So now I've associated this account, and now here we are. We're in. So let's go check our profile, and let's see what claims we have. So do we have a user object ID? We do, but it doesn't look like that object ID is... Oh, no. No, we don't. It looks like our claims identity has some strange...
object?
Some strange claims in it, and they are not... Oh, no, we have some of them. We don't have the right identity here. So we have the ASP.NET identity that was created for this user. We don't have the root external identity that originally authenticated this user.
So we need to go back into the code and fix it.
So if we look at this, let me open some of this up, make it a little bigger. So if we look at our...
Zoom in.
I will. Magnifier. All right, so if we look at our identity here, the authentication type on this one is an application cookie, which is issued by that external login thing, right? So when we look at the claims that are in this app, so yeah, I've got a name, which is my email name that I just gave it, but look at the identity provider. It's ASP.NET identity. And because of that, the name identifier is this GUID, which is my ID in the membership database that's behind this, right? So this is sort of another hangover of the fact that our sample was doing a bunch of extra stuff than just pure ADAL or pure MSAL. So we're going to have to go sort that out, but that's okay. We can do that.
Yeah, I am buffering quite a lot this morning.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I think it's my stream over here. I don't know if it's you.
Oh. Well, so the net of this is that now we're in a spot where we have an identity, but it's not the correct identity, right?
Yep.
Because the claims identity that we have is one issued by the application from ASP.NET identity rather than one... rather than our root identity from the external provider, which in our case is Azure AD. So, a couple ways we can sort this through. Let's go look at our account controller, because I believe this is where our external stuff happens, right? So, let's see here.
We assigned the identity somewhere. Let's go and fix it.
So we do our callback, and the thing is that I suspect that data is actually in that database somewhere. Some of the data, not all of it, but at least our name identifier is. So I'm going to look in the tables for ASP.NET users. This is I'm going to use Azure Data Explorer or Data Studio for this because I think it'll be.
That was the whole point, right? You downloaded it for that explicit reason.
I think it'll be easier to see.
Yeah, you can also zoom in and zoom out much easier than having to use a magnifier.
Yep.
Because it's Electron.
Here it is. All right, so we're just going to connect up to localhost here to appearance. Zoom in. All right, so let's get connected to local DB, and it is. MS SQL local DB. I guess it's in Visual Studio. I can go over here and look. Local DB, MS SQL local DB. Okay. Local DB. Oops. Whack. MS SQL local DB. And the database is this EF providers in memory. So let's get connected here. All right, let's go look at our users table. So here's my user. This is my application user in ASP.NET Identity, not my actual user, and it doesn't look like my claim data is in here. So let's look at this user logins table. So this has my provider key, which is most likely the subject ID and the user ID. And the user ID is the ASP.NET Identity user ID. So I wonder what the best way to save this extra data in here is.
Yeah, we're gonna start messing with the default provider. So I don't know if we want to.
Well, I don't want to. I'm not going to save any extra or store any extra data. But I think what we're going to do is when a user signs in, this is where security token validated becomes so useful. So let's go back to our auth and get rid of these breakpoints now that we know that our cache is working. And here, I wonder which one is happening first. Excuse me. If we're hitting this external login first, this is doing an external sign-in async. I wonder if we can manipulate the principal here, or if we'll have to do it somewhere else. So here, we have the option to manipulate the claims and the identity before it gets
set.
Before it gets saved. Yep.
Okay.
But I don't know if we will have the. I think this is happening before the ASP.NET Identity one happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the right place to do it. So what does this do? Yeah, that's ASP.NET Identity ON. So I wonder if there's a way in ON to say, oh, I bet it's here. This would be my, well, no. That's just taking us down here. But this is what creates it. So, this application user, but this is where we can store the extra data, right? So in here, where's this application user? Is this defined somewhere? It is. Okay, cool. So I think here is where we can extend the schema a little bit, right? So
what are the properties of the application user? It's an identity user. Okay. Add custom claims here. There you go.
I'm not I'm not confident, but we'll see. Okay. So put those two in here. And then when we create the user with this external confirmation, this is where we will put in our additional data. So user external object ID and user user external tenant ID. So we got to go get those out of the thing. Which
does the model have them?
No, because the model, it looks like the model is just coming from here when we go to create the user.
Right.
So where can we get that data? Requires verification, and then otherwise send them to login provider. See what the login provider. Oh, this is just doing. No. So it's going to external login confirmation, and it's sending some extra data in. And I'm assuming none of that's going to be in login info. Oh, the external identity's there. So, yeah, let's include that in our external login confirmation view model. Let's also include a field called what was that? What was that type? That is claims identity. All right. Good. That's actually kind of easy, I think. So we'll just call this external identity. It'll be login info dot external identity because it's claims. It's claims anyway, which should make it fairly straightforward. Generate property. Be kind of nice if that just worked. Oh, and it did. Nice. Okay. Okay, so back in our account controller, now we've got our external identity, and what we'll do is oh, we may not even have to send it in. because it looks like we still have the external one right here. Let's just check. We'll look for both of them and see what the values are. We'll start here. We'll start with this one since it should be a part of that.
Yep. Someone's cutting the grass?
Apparently so. It's grass cutting day today. Alright, so info, external identity, get claims, has claim. No, we don't care about the value. Claims. Any. Claim types, name identifier. So if it has one, we'll just take the first one. See, I love link, but like, I don't want to do multiple enumerations, right? So it's almost like, it'd probably almost be better to have like, have them here, right?
Yep.
You do like a 2 list on them and you're pretty much done. Because now you've enumerated them the one time, you don't have to worry about it again.
Correct.
So...
And I don't see that being a performance hit, so we should be okay.
Huh?
I don't see that being a performance hit.
Well, no, because you're doing it once, right? And now I'm just checking just blowing through the an in-memory collection twice instead of potentially all right, so let's go get the name identifier. Oops. And we're basically gonna
Auto completion just goes crazy. You said X, I'm gonna bring XML blah.
Oh, I don't have my other one. I guess we could just do a first or default on it, really.
Rather than checking twice, yeah. Although, to be honest, because you've already done a 2 list, it doesn't really... There's no harm in doing any first and then first.
This isn't nullable.
Oh, it is not?
Oh, I need the value anyway, because we're just doing the string. Of course, that's going to blow up, because if it's null. Alright. And then our claim type on here, I believe, will be TID, but we may have to go back and check. Alright. And we'll have to put some guards in here for...
Is there no enum for TID? The tenant ID?
No. Because I think the enum, the claim type's enum, comes from a bunch of older ones.
Okay.
So, alright, so we're going to go plow that database again. Which kind of raises another interesting question, which is like, well, I guess the kind of data we're storing should be immutable. Like your name ID shouldn't change. That's the whole point, right?
Yep.
Okay. So let's go do the time warp again.
Hey, do you have the GitHub repo somewhere that we can share? Somebody's asking which app we are migrating.
Yeah, it's one of the samples that we have that we've published. It's an older sample. Let's see. Azure samples. It's called MS Identity. I think it's this one. No, that's not it. We had a docs page that has all of our V1 samples in it.
Correct. It was the V1 stuff.
Has anyone ever used the search in docs successfully?
Never gets me to where I want to go. Google seems to be a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
So Rick Neo09 says, can you not do info.externalidentity.find first value and then claim email or something?
Yeah, we could probably do that too. Which one is it? Is it... Oh no, these are V2 samples. I want the V1 samples.
Yeah, we're over-indexing on the V2 stuff because it's what we want people to use these days. So finding the V1 is fun.
Yes, it is. Which isn't very helpful when you're migrating.
We want to find the older stuff, not the new stuff.
Yeah.
Samples. I wonder if the V2.
I think you had actually sent me a link to this the other day.
You know what? Yeah, I think I have it on the chat with Nicholas. So let me find it very quickly. See, thanks for reminding me. I found the link.
Okay.
I'll put it on the chat so everybody can see it.
All right, so that's the one. Okay, cool. Yeah, we could probably do like a find first on here too. If we were to do, let's see, info, external identity, claims, find, or find first value. Yep, we could do that. Because that'll just give us the thing. And this is claim types, name, identifier. Oops. And then we'll do the same thing here. Info.
And we chose from the samples, we chose the one that calls MSCrap, right? Web app, OpenID connectation, the core, or?
Well, it wasn't core.
Was it no, sorry, not core. I said .NET web app, OpenID connect. Ah, it says in the core. This one, okay, yeah. Oh yeah, it was group claims? Can't remember now. That's no, that's not the one. Can't remember which one it was. You chose it. .NET web app multi-tenant OpenID connect. Was that the one? .NET web app multi-tenant OpenID connect. Do you think that was the one?
I think it was the one that calls an API.
Oh, okay. So back to it.
Because it needed to call an. The other one I think was just authentication. This one called an API too.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I think I have it. It's a .NET web app, web API, OAuth to user identity. I think that's the sample.
Did you find the right one?
I am looking. I don't think it's the right one. Let me see. No, doesn't look like I have the right one. We should have taken a note of that when we started so people can find it quickly.
I'm pretty sure it's in pretty sure you sent me a link to it because it was the stuff that Nicholas.
Oh no, I sent you the link. I can't remember which sample we chose from that link.
Oh, okay. Oh, did you send me the link?
I put it on the chat, but I can send it to you as well.
That's all right. I got it. Sample V1.
You got it?
Yeah. It was .NET web app web API.
See, that's what I said. I couldn't remember which one we chose.
Well, we can look.
It was the.
Oh, here it is.
Where?
Let's see. We'll just pull the GitHub repo. I mean, we're in the repo. We're just detached from it. .NET web app web API OAuth to identity. Here. I shall put it in the chat here. this specific repo.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. So.
Okay.
All right.
And just to clarify, just on the master branch, right? Because there's an archive branch, which is the default one. People won't find any code there. You need to switch to the master branch.
All right. So let's get logged in here. Make sure that we've got our external identity available to us when we do this persistence into a database. And I think that I kind of like that we chose one without really vetting it first, because especially people who are new to companies or people who are joining new companies or taking over old code, this is what it's like, right? You're peeling back the onion to figure out what sort of stuff is happening all day, every day. So.
The discovery journey. You have to find how it's working first before you start doing any changes.
Yeah, it keeps it interesting. So.
And we found the bug, and I think we have a documentation recommendation that we need to go back and fix.
All right, so
almost there.
What is in our login info in terms of the external identity claims? Anything? There they are. Perfect. Cool. Okay, so we can't sign in because we don't exist because we wiped our database, right? Mm-hmm. So now we're going to send some stuff over here, and we're going to send this external identity over to our confirmation page. And the confirmation page is that extra information collection page, right?
Yep.
So let's get over there, and then we'll put in our email or whatever this thing's asking for. Okay. And we'll do a registration. And in the model, there is no external identity because it's passing through, so that kind of makes sense. So let's check our info here. Our info, do we still have an external identity that's valid? And it would appear that we do, which is fantastic. So, do we have a TID claim? Let's just see. So here's our user, and our user has an external object ID, which is incorrect, and the tenant ID is not there. So let's see what claims we've got on our external identity here. Where's tenant ID? It's schemas.microsoft. Here, I'll just pull it up.
Yeah, it's a long-winded one.
Yep. So here's the tenant ID claim. schemas.microsoft.com, whack identity, whack claims, whack tenant ID. And then we need to go find our object ID, because clearly the name identifier is not the correct field. In our external identity, we look at our claims. We've got, where's our object ID? Object identifier, yet another. Here we go. Here is our object ID one.
It would be too easy if it was otherwise,
Yep, there we go. So these are the two claims that we need to have available. Now the other thing is, what I wonder is if we could somehow add these as just additional claims on the object, or if they're going to, because I don't know if they're necessarily going to pass through just because they're on this object, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, all right, so let's see if we have object ID here. We don't. So I guess we'll just have to use some strings. Here's our tenant ID, and here is our object ID. Okay, so now we'll get those. We'll save them on this application user object. So, do they come back once we've logged a user in?
They should.
Oops, not where I meant to go. Now we should also, granted, we should also have this here.
Mm-hmm.
And in our external sign-in, well, external sign-in async is only going to give us back a sign-in status.
Yep.
Well, let's get it persisted and see where it takes us.
Okay. One step at a time, baby steps.
So, did this user actually get persisted? It did. So, you know what, we'll just delete the data, just drop the database again. Let it recreate. Yeah, because I'm not sure if I'm going to get that application user again. Maybe we should go read up about ASP.NET Identity. Since it's been so long.
Yeah, but then again, as in the object or the functionality?
Look at Bing coming out swinging early. People also ask, is ASP.NET still relevant? We'll take a look at this one. See, this is a core doc, right? So maybe it's similar in terms of how you use it, but we'll take a look and see. So that's saving claims from a third party.
Which we are.
Oh, so this is doing user manager add claim async. I wonder if we have that in this one, in the old Owen stuff, the framework stuff, you know.
Yeah, we do have a user manager. We're using it. I don't know if we're using it correctly though. That's the other thing.
It looks like we may just need to add. Looks like maybe we did what we were supposed to already. Let's just let's do this first, and if it doesn't work, we'll look at user manager about adding those claims afterward.
Okay.
So if we weren't using a membership database like that, and we're just relying on the user object itself,
Correct.
We could just add them at security token validated step. Add any additional claims, you know, from a database or some external system or, you know, whatever. We could just add them there, and then they just sort of ride with the user throughout their session and their claims. In this case, it's sort of the inverse, where we sign a user in and we immediately sort of abstract that away from the app by signing them in through ASP.NET Identity. So we're kind of hiding the fact that they came from somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, all right. Let's, we got to wait for it to load. So let's go log in again. We don't have a database, so we shouldn't have any user hangover stuff in here.
All right, nice. MarikNeo09 said, if you have Microsoft.identity model.clients.active directory, which is a dependency, then you could use the ID token claim.tenantID to avoid strings for the claims. Nice.
If you have identity model.clients.active directory, isn't that ADAL? That's ADAL, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're moving from ADAL to MSAL. Correct. You got me there. We're removing dependencies to ADAL.
Yeah, I think this is migrating from ADAL to MSAL plus a bunch of ASP.NET Identity stuff that's on top. So Perhaps we should have chosen a better sample.
Oh, don't start with that. Don't start with that.
Okay. Oh, what happened to my session here? Maybe the browser timed out waiting on this thing. Still loading. Oh, there we go. Finally. Two timeouts. It
takes a while, man.
Two browser timeouts later, it finally loaded up. Okay. So, use another service to log in. Log in with OpenID Connect. We got logged in. Cool. We got our external user info. Cool. We don't know who the user is, so we're going to go to our confirmation, which is sort of like an additional data collection step. And let's see, go ahead and get this in. So my email address is that. I'm going to have to nuke that email address, putting it on the internet like that. So let's see, did we get any values in our find first? So our user object has my external object ID, which is great. Oh no, I'm an idiot. See, it's because they're stuck using strings. Rick was right. They're stuck using strings, and so I've assigned my tenant ID to my object ID field.
Look at you. And also, I didn't even pay attention to what you were doing there, so it's both our fault.
So this one is the tenant ID. Tenant ID, and this one is the object ID. There we go.
Yep.
So now I got to wait 48 minutes for it to build again.
Hey, are we doing office hours tomorrow? Should we tell Rick Neo if he wants to?
I think we should. It may not have may not be a ton of folks just yet, but yeah, we can absolutely do some office hours tomorrow. That'd be great. What time? 11 a.m.
Yep. I think it's gonna be the de facto time going forward.
11 a.m. So 8 a.m. Pacific, and what is that? 4 p.m.
Yep.
4 p.m. GM. That's 4 p.m. UTC. So what's that? 3 summertime or British summertime?
Yes, that's like 4 time zones that we pass now.
Yeah, they make my head. Time zones make my head hurt. So. Especially in the summer, which summertime. It's funny that we call it where I live on the East Coast. We call it standard time but it's 3 months out of the year. It's like, it's only 3 months. Maybe it's not the standard any longer. maybe we ought to move on. All right, I didn't nuke the database this time because I don't know if we've actually stored any data since we haven't done a create async yet. So I'm hoping that we haven't, so that I don't have to nuke the database every time. But we'll let it load up here and then run through it again. We should persist our data correctly here, and then we'll have to go fetch it on the other end too.
And we're almost there.
Almost there.
Almost there.
All right, log in. All right, so we get logged in. Oh, yeah, we do exist in the database, so we got to go boot ourselves out. I'll just we'll just pave it. Let it recreate it. Oh no, what have I done? Oh no, come back to me, Visual Studio. I need my mouse cursor back. Oh, there we go. Okay.
At least it didn't go white, milky white, and then said no responding.
That's true, because it almost happened.
Almost.
I could feel it. I was like, oh no, I can feel it. I can feel the ghost coming on. Oh yeah, okay. All right, let's.
At least you haven't booted me out with your short key, your hotkeys today.
Growing pains, growing pains. Okay.
Yeah.
So let this get fired up again. Go ahead and get our thing open while we're waiting for it. So we can get logged in again. Yeah, next time we shouldn't use anything that has a database behind it. It's too slow. Or maybe
yeah,
it's maybe
or
it's
in
not a
memory
framework.
databases.
Maybe it's a framework thing.
Maybe we can upgrade to EF Core and show people how they can do it on their older code bases.
Why does this? I guess I need to kill IIS now entirely too, don't I? Exit. Yep. Okay. Okay, so we're all cleaned out there. Okay. Okay. So let's get back to our root page here, which will trigger the load. Yeah, you're right. We do need some background music.
Yeah, there's this like awkward silence.
I mean, I'm trying to keep it not awkward silence, but and the lawnmower is gone. So
it's
all the
hard
background,
to do it when you're thinking and coding at the same time. That's the challenge.
all the background noise is gone. I'm gonna go ahead and just plow over these cookies for this domain. All right. So get a refresh on here, and we're not logged in. Cool. All right, let's log in. Sign in with Azure AD. All right. We don't exist in the database, so let's get in it. Okay, and check our object here. I think this time we got stuff in the right place. Yep, user external object ID and tenant ID, those are correct. Cool. So we'll create that. It succeeded. That's awesome. We added our login. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Cool. So now we're logged in, and it was seen we have our extra data in the database, which is great.
Brilliant.
So let's go to our profile, and let's see, where do those claims show up? Do they show up on my user object? No. So how do we end up going back to the user manager, I wonder? Or I think what would be even better would be to just add them, right?
Yeah, I would say that if you add them to the it should be part of the identity, right? It should be there. When you say HTTP context.current.user, it should come up with the right object.
Yeah.
You sound troubled.
I wonder. Get to this immediate window here. Let's see. Are there more than one? How many identities are on this object for starters? Okay, so no, we only have one identity.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't added any. We haven't added any of our claims to that. So I don't see a good way for us to get the database data, which is effectively what we stored, right?
Yeah.
I don't see a way for us to get that out of the claims principal right now. So that means we have to figure out ASP.NET's user manager, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, or I wonder if during login, if there's a mechanism we can use to, get that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Let's change our confirmation view model to get rid of our external identity.
Is it not possible to just do the EF call and get the data out?
Well, you don't interact with the user database directly, though. In the
True, you use the user manager. Yeah.
ASP.NET Identity, you use user manager. So, So external sign-in. So let's see. I wonder if we have to add a second identity like we do otherwise. So we can't add to the claims principal. So I think what we'll do, we're going to add an identity.
Yep.
And we'll with a set of claims. So our login info, in this case we don't even have to save them anymore.
Yep.
Because we'll get them on every one, which that way we'll just pull them straight off of the external identities object instead of trying to save it and pull it back later.
Perfect.
Find first, thank you. We can take them out of here too. Just grab both of these. And we'll just do a find first on both of these. And let's see. So user add identity to new claims identity. And here we'll have a new list of claims. And our two claims will be, these two. Okay. That also means we should be able to take them out of here, because then we'll just pull them off of the user ticket whenever they sign in.
Yep.
Off of the Azure AD ticket whenever they sign in. So, So yes, we're going to add the identity to the user, which is similar to how we had to do it, how we would do it if we weren't using a membership database at all. You would add the claims to a new identity, and then you add the identity to the user.
Yep.
So, at least that part's a little familiar.
Consistency.
Okay, let this crank up for a second.
Seconds.
Seconds, it's correct, yeah. Okay. Are we back yet? Nope, not yet. Still cranking.
Still cranking.
Get my output window up. Make sure it's still moving. Okay, we're here. So let's go to let's log out, right? So make sure we start from something clean. I wonder if we could just use that authentication manager directly where we needed it anyway.
Rather than doing the round trip?
Doing it here, but yeah, I'm not an ASP.NET identity like wizard either. So okay, let's see what we got going on. Oh, did we have an error? Or did my debugging session just stop? What happened? An invalid handle was specified. Okay.
Invalid handle?
That's what it said.
IIS handle?
That's what it said. So, whatever. Try it again.
Invalid handle was specified.
All right. Get logged in. All right, let's go to our profile. Now let's see what claims do we have on our principal now. So we still have the same ones. Do we have do we have more than one identity? No, we still have the one. So we need to figure out how do we add what's the best part of the pipeline to add claims to, right?
Yeah.
So let's go look at the docs.
To the docs.
To the docs. Or Stack Overflow.
Whatever comes first. They're both useful.
It looks like user manager is going to be our friend.
Yep.
A lot of these, a lot of the posts are referencing user manager. But where do we get a user manager? Like, is this one of those? Is it like a global? I mean, where does it come from? Oh, I wonder if we're not. Oh, we're not adding the claims identity. I don't think we're adding it to the right one. Ew.
Schoolboy error.
Because we're, well, no. Let's go back. In fact, let's take 5 minutes because I'm going to run use the restroom.
Okay.
All right, so we'll be back in what,
yeah.
2 or 3 minutes? Maybe 5 minutes?
Let's say 5 minutes.
12:30.
Yeah. 12:30, 9:30 Pacific time.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool. See you in a few.
Yep. Exactly.
right.
Let's do this. We're almost there, man.
We are back.
Yeah, we're back.
So I think before we go down the other route, the one thing I wanted to check was we want to add this identity to the application cookie. I think. So, no. Unless it's part of... Let's see. Current user for the request. I wonder if we're doing this in the wrong place. So once we've signed in, so that's our user manager. We've added the login to the user manager, and sign in is when we actually want to handle. Sign in is when we actually want to do this.
Yep.
We don't have an. Do we have a user? We don't have an application user yet, though, because external sign-in async is going to give us back a sign-in status.
Yep. So you think we're doing it too early?
Well, I'm trying to think of where. I'm trying to think of where we're going to persist this. Right. So like.
Should that not be in the confirmation, external login confirmation? What's happening in there?
Well, the confirmation is the thing that asks for more info later, right?
All right, okay.
So external sign-in. The login info is there. So I wonder then. Let's see. Let's. I mean, it's really a user manager.
Yep.
User. Well, no, but. It's like if we just did like an add user claim here, add claim here. How is that going to get... We'd have to do that before we sign the user in, I would think. Let's see. ASP.NET identity, add claims to external user. I wonder if we could just get the O in context and get the authentication data that way. I wonder if the external identity data lives on past the original sign-in.
That's a good question. Should we look into that?
Maybe. Or... No, because we don't have... this in the wrong place. Or are we saying we need to add these to the authentication cookie, or to the application cookie? But this is after the sign-in. Although we haven't, I wonder if this is going to manipulate the cookie before it gets sent, even though we're doing a sign-in here. I guess it's worth a look, right? And then the other one is this user manager. User manager add claim async. And the user ID, would that be in login info? ID? No. Where's the yeah, because the whole point of this is to figure out if the user exists or not. And if they do exist, login info dot login. We want the user's object ID, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll come back. Let's come back around to that. All right. Let's see if this gets written to the cookie or not. I'm just going to go wipe out the data here. Okay. Because I couldn't connect to nearly anything. So yeah, I don't know what happened, but looks like we're back now. So
awesome.
I hope we are. I mean, you're still moving on the camera, so that's good.
I am moving. Yeah. It seems that we're back online.
Yep. Okay.
And we lost our one viewer.
Oh well.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
I guess it has a way of doing that.
Are we overcomplicating things here? It should be fairly easy to grab the external object and stick it into the user identity or our application user and be done with it, right?
Yeah, it's because we're using this. It's because we're using this damn. It's because of this ASP.NET identity garbage. It just.
Yeah. Which almost makes you ask, why would you need to persist that information on your local machine?
What do you mean?
Like, why would you want to persist in the database?
I don't. I just want it to be added to the claims.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, in the modern world, you don't, or in the modern authentication styles that we use, we don't really store that. We don't create a database just to store that information. We use the
you
tokens
might have some
and
of that data, but you don't necessarily keep it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
it's in the cookie, right? So the you can get you can use like HTTP context.current.user or the current claims that if you want to do and get them out of the token, you don't have to use the user manager for that.
Yeah.
It's all in the context.
Well, but we have to add them somehow, right? Because the ASP.NET thing is like it's abstracting the fact that we're coming in from one of these external providers.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like B2C, right? It has 20 identity providers and then it issues its own. So we have to copy the data out of the incoming external identity into the new main identity or whatever you want to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's like, the quickest way to add additional claims to the user identity is to create your own implementation of iUserClaims Principal Factory and register it in the DI container. Like, how? There's zero simplicity here.
Yep.
Like, and I don't understand why why this is so difficult, to be quite honest. Like, this shouldn't be this hard. So, because like, in here, you know, you're doing a sign-in after, right?
Yep.
Which is what's going to, like, write the cookie. So that's why create identity async. This is doing a create, add to role, and then add claim. So this is doing it during user creation. It's just figuring out where in the pipeline we should be doing this, right?
Yeah.
And as of right now, it's still not entirely clear where we put these, right?
Yep.
So add a claim here. And the user ID is user.id. The claim is this one. Only it's a find first, but not find first value, find first. Oops. And then we do the same thing for the object ID. So then the sign-in is occurring.
Yep.
But are those now persisted to that user?
That's a good question. Can we run it and see what happens?
That's what I'm not sure about. Because like this would work for this moment.
Yep.
For this first one, but would it work in subsequent ones? Because unless they're being persisted to the user, I don't know how they're going to come back out. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So think what we'll have to do is we'll have to get the user's ID.
Mm-hmm.
And add them before we do a sign-in manager. Before we call the sign-in manager here.
So that it can be persisted with the additional information, right?
Right.
Okay.
So,
let's try that.
But I don't know if we have that yet because the sign-in manager does an external sign-in, and if it succeeds, I think we're already signed in at that point. So that's registration. Add claim if results succeeded, blah, blah, blah. And then generate user identity async. Do we have that anywhere in our code?
No, I think we assign it. We don't generate. We add the user, right? Don't think we generate.
Oh, we do have it.
We do?
Well, maybe.
Where? Oh. Haha.
This is where we can add custom user claims here. Who's dope?
Right. There you go.
So, but then, how do we get our external identity in here?
It's passing a user manager. Interesting. Do we need to assign it to the model or the application user as an object? Maybe a collection or a list, a raw list, and then you enumerate and you add them. You iterate and you add them. Interesting.
There's external login callback. I mean, this is where we need to do it. Just trying to figure out the best way to do it. Because, I mean, maybe... So we have a user manager here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean... Where were those claim types? So this is tenant ID. So maybe if we persist them, we can get them back out this way?
Could be. Dun, dun, dun. You should make that a constant, so you can grab it every time you need it.
Yeah, you're right.
It's fine. It's fine. Just a suggestion on how to make the code more usable, but it's fine.
Well, it's not very usable at all right now. So.
Well, we are focusing on just doing the ADAL to MSAL migration. That's the whole point. We want to make sure that we tackle that first, and then there's a lot of opportunity to refactor and remove dead code and what have you.
Well, and it sucks because it's like we're spending 90% of the time putzing around with ASP.NET Identity, but
correct.
You know, other people are going to be in the same boat as we are, so I still think it's time well spent, at least.
Yep.
Now, I wonder, do I need to plow this database again? Probably. Make sure they get persisted. I was thinking for office hours, we should invite some of our other folks on, right? Like some of our B2C folks, maybe, or somebody else. Maybe not tomorrow, but for subsequent ones, just make sure we have some different, lots of different guests and groups and assorted people that come in, All right, so. Let's get this going again. go ahead and pave our cookies, so we got to sign in again. Okay. Okay, let's get logged in. All right, OpenID Connect. Okay, get to our profile. What claims do we have in our current identity? Any? Bueller. Ah, there they are. Tenant ID and object identifier. Nice.
Bueller. I like that reference.
What?
I like the reference to Bueller.
All right, we got them.
We got them.
We got our claims in the right place. I guess we finally figured it out.
It was a case then of finding out where to put them, right, in the right place or at the right time. You might want to remove that comment over there.
What?
At the end of line 58, there's a yeah, you removed it.
I love this find first value. I'm totally down with this. It is. Yeah, you're right. Fine, I'll go put them somewhere. I'll put them in here. Oh, is there already a constant somewhere? There is. I'll just go there. Oh, that's part of ASP.NET Identity. Never mind.
Hey, I just spoke to Jean-Marc. He did say, on a side note, totally side note, that we might be able to use Microsoft.Addend.Web for Blazor server-side.
Ah, very cool. Yeah, we'll have to get a call together or get a stream together for that to try it. Maybe let's just try it. What's the worst that could happen, right?
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. We get a Blazor app straight out of the box, and then we try to use Addend.Web.
All right. User or object identifier. Identifier. And then our tenant ID. All right. Now, I think we're finally to the point, maybe. I've said this 35 times, right?
Fingers crossed. Well, it's one step closer to what we need to achieve.
Yep. If we make a graph call work this time, I'm going to just tell you.
That reauth property there, that Boolean, I don't think it's used anywhere, so maybe we can just wipe it out.
Not refactoring.
You know what happens to OCD people like, right? It's like, I'm seeing those squiggles, I need to fix it.
I know, they drive me nuts. I know exactly how you're feeling.
It's fine. We need to keep ourselves out of that loop. So you and me, make sure we remind ourselves. Error calling graph API.
Well, that's the old. I'm still waiting on the page to load.
Switching between windows now, that's why I saw that. Let's see how our migration is going. We're almost there. We managed to strip everything out from ADAL, and then we managed to plug everything for MSAL, and hopefully load the appropriate claims into the user object, so we can pull it out when we need to on the profile page. So almost there.
Did we get an object ID? We did. Did we get a tenant ID? We did. So now, now's the big question: is does MSAL find the right cache? MSAL account is still null, so it's looking like that's going to be a no. And
oh,
boom. All right, that's okay though. So we'll let that fail. Yeah,
not succeed, I would say. Let's not be negative. Let's say we'll let that not succeed.
It's okay. Let's go check our cache and see what's going on over here. Maybe we just have something in the wrong order. So we'll put this here, put this here. Oops. We'll just run it again.
By the way, we haven't really checked any coding. I would say we probably need the before and after.
Yeah, that's fine. Because I reset the head yesterday.
We have the before, right? So all we need to do now is take the after, and then talk about the changes that we did.
So this we have a suggested cache key, and the cache key is what, 9620. So my object ID dot my tenant ID, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's before access.
So we'll grab the bytes.
But the account is null.
Has not been set.
Let's go back to our main login and check what the key is when we're putting it in.
Yeah. You think we have them the other way around?
I mean, something's not right about it. So.
But we had that working before, right?
We've never pulled it out of this cache successfully.
Right. Okay.
So I'm going to delete my cookies here in the browser. So we'll sign in again. That way we'll redeem our code and hydrate our cache. Oh, maybe that's why, because I didn't re-log in and we're using an in-memory cache. I think that's probably what it is.
Okay.
Because, IIS is dying every time we stop the process, right? So.
It is dying every time we start the process and stop.
I mean, that's the definition, right?
I was checking back to make sure that my kids are still alive and they haven't killed each other.
If this works, we're stopping so I can go get lunch. I'm getting hungry.
Well, if this works, we are done, right?
If this works, I think we're done with the ADAL thing. We'll just need to kind of review what we did and, not choose an ASP.NET identity stream again. Or we could get super bold and be like, okay, bring us your hairiest, nastiest, hardest, weirdest, oldest corner case stuff, and we'll watch us stumble through fixing it live. Okay, so our cache key here is not suggested, but we have an account, we have an identifier. The identifier, that looks correct. I think it was because we, I think what happened last time was because we
didn't log out and log in again.
I hadn't logged in since that process had started running. All the more reason to not use an in-memory cache.
Yep.
Because you're stuck on a single machine and as soon as the process dies, your cache goes along with it. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cool. All right. So we got our stuff getting added correctly. Cool. So that's all coming in as it's supposed to. Get rid of that breakpoint. Okay. So we're logged in. So let's go to our profile page. We got our cache key. Don't believe, do we have an account? No, we don't have an account in the ARGs, but we do have our suggested key, which is the key that we gave it.
Yep.
So let's see, did it find anything? It did, 7,300 bytes it found. Promising. Get rid of these breakpoints now. So did we get an account? Yes. Nice. And now we've got the right cache loaded. So now we really don't have any excuses.
It should work. We have the right permissions. What is it gonna say?
It's still going through the cache. It's cool.
That's interesting.
Result. Oh, so we didn't have any errors. There's an authentication result. There's an access token. Now we're going to go call the graph. Feeling good about this one. Access tokens in the header. Send. Is it a success? It is.
Oh, God. So excited. We did it. Well, you did it. I was here looking at you. No errors.
Bing! There we go. That was a shitload of work for 3 fields. Goodness. All right.
The 3 right fields.
All right.
This is amazing. Done.
So let's look at what we did, because it was a lot. I mean, the MSAL to ADAL part was, I think, probably the easiest part of this whole thing, right? So because
it was more about messing with the ASP.NET identity provider and making sure that we store it correctly and then implementing a cache. Sorry, let's take it from the start. Let's take it from the start.
Yeah. So this app, the way that when we saw it,
yeah,
it sort of was like this. So we've got all these external providers over here, right?
Are you using a pen or a mouse?
I'm using a mouse, which is why it looks so bad. So these are all of our external providers like Azure AD.
Yeah.
And what they were doing is they were flowing through here and turning into this new application user object, which was ASP.NET Identity, right?
Yep. Yep.
A user, application user. And then the app over here, all it ever saw was that, right?
Correct. Yep.
So the first thing we had to do was we switched over from using the Microsoft authentication, Microsoft account authentication, to OpenID Connect, right? So we set that up here.
In a startup inside Owen.
Inside startup, right?
Yep.
So we set that up here, and one of the big things we did was set up authorization code received. Authorization code received being how we receive the code from Azure AD and then redeem it for an ID or for an access token, right?
Yep.
So in order for this to persist across requests, we have to cache that somewhere. So we used MSAL up here. We created an MSAL client. We used MSAL to handle the token acquisition from the code, but we needed that to persist, and that's when we used the per user memory token cache, which is right here.
Yeah, so something that we need to clarify. In the previous iteration with ADAL, we did not have a cache because it was we required the user, or the application required the user to re-log in on the profile page.
And right, in the previous version of this app, you signed in to authenticate to the app and signed in to authenticate to the graph as 2 separate steps, which is not a desirable experience, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, who you logged in with to log into the app and who you logged in with to the graph were 2 sort of wholly separate entities. They could have been different.
Yeah.
So in our cache, we noticed our cache had a little bug. So we changed our cache keys here to make sure we're storing the cache in a way that we can go back and get it. Because when you're storing your MSAL cache, it's super important that it's per user in a confidential client, right? Because something like a web app, there's one server or one deployment, and there are many users that are using it at once. On your desktop, if you store it in a file somewhere protected, you store the cache somewhere, whatever, because it's just your machine. You store it in a user profile or whatever. But on a web app, there's no sort of user profile like that, right? So you want to store your caches need to be keyed on something unique about those users, right? So we needed a cache so that token that we had gotten with our auth code could be used later on. So the first little problem we had was figuring out why our cache key was null. And it turns out that's a known issue, and it's been fixed in the newer version. I just don't think the newest MSAL is out in NuGet yet. So we got that sorted out. So now we can sign a user in with OpenID Connect.
Yep.
And acquire and cache an access token with MSAL. Right? So we got those two things. So then we needed to use that access token. And that's when we sort of devolved down into the mess of this sample app. So because the sample app has lots of different providers that it could use, it was abstracting all those users from any one of those external identities into a single identity called the application user. So application user, my ID is 123 in an ASP.NET membership database. I could have 5 external identities, Azure AD, Facebook, GitHub, whoever, associated to that one ID. So I could sign in with any of them, which is great. But we didn't have any way to access the underlying claims for those users when we needed it at runtime. So what we ended up doing was persisting those pieces of data here off the external identity. And this is the external login confirmation method. This is part of this sample app. This method is what happens when we don't have a user in the database and we want to collect some extra info from them. So we collect their email address, but we're also using this as an opportunity to save these extra 2 fields of data. Right? So these are going to be saved into our membership database. Because we're going to need them later on. We need the tenant ID and we need the object identifier. Right? Luckily for us, that means that on subsequent logins, in our identity models, our application user, we added those 2 fields, and then generate user identity async. That's when we are pulling those fields from the database and adding them as new claims into our object. Right? That was our last piece that we just sort of sorted out. The add custom user claims here apparently was completely lost on my lizard brain, so we could have saved 4 hours worth of streaming, but whatever.
2 hours.
2 hours. So we got so now we have our claims available to us on the user object or on the user principal for the remainder of the app, because these claims are written to the application cookie that gets persisted on the user's box, right? So every time they come back to the app, each request in a session, we're going to see that cookie and we're going to have this data available, so we don't have to go back and pull it from somewhere externally. We've got it as soon as I sign in. It's a very similar mechanism to how we would do this in an inverted manner, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So then, now it's just a matter of using it. So in our user profile controller, where we got to go to the graph, that's where we're able to pull these claims back out, pull these claims off of the principal, get their values, use that to create our MSAL client again, and most importantly, get to the right cache, right? So once we get to the right cache, which we use by generating a cache key of user object ID.tenant ID, now we can do an acquire token silent. So now we're using MSAL to get a V2 token. We're signing in with the V2 endpoint, and then we can go make our graph request to go pull back data from the graph. And largely the rest of the app is untouched. So we didn't have to make a ton of changes. They just had to be very precise changes. And so this one, I think for us, we didn't really look at this app before we did the stream. Which I said before, I think is actually a good thing, because I think that's an experience that a lot of our customers and users have. Is if they start a new company or they adopt something new and then they get stuck trying to sort of backtrack through old legacy code without a whole lot of backstory. So I think that was I'm kind of glad that we did go through that, because I think it adds a little bit more a little bit more the kind of stuff that people have to deal with on a regular basis. Typically, or maybe in a more, I guess in a more modernized way, or in a more a newer way, is instead of having a membership database that stores all this user data, we might have just a database, right, that has user data about us. And what we tend to see, and what we like to see, is we just add claims to the user's identity when they come in from the external provider directly, right? So here in our startup.auth, for example, in our security token validated event, this may be a time for us to go fetch some data from our database based on a user and stuff more data about them in here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because now we're not abstracting the upstream identity provider away from the app. We are just adding the additional data we need into our into our external object. You know, if you're supporting a bunch of external identities, maybe this model that we have works better. But if you're only authenticating to Azure AD, why go through the trouble of an external membership database when your application most likely already has a database, right, that has some piece of user data in it? You just go fetch the pieces that you need when you need them, and either stuff them in the user's claims, or do a lookup when you need to, depending on the frequency and the validity of that data across your whole app. So there are lots of different ways to do it. I wouldn't say one way is necessarily more correct, but it just depends on how you're using your identity system. The other option too is, like we said with B2C, is just let B2C handle the users from many different sources problem, and let B2C be your membership database. Because now you don't have a membership database at all. You don't have to worry about storing it. You don't have to worry about making it available. Your membership database is B2C, and all of the interactions with those external systems happens there, and your app only has to deal with B2C. So you generate your claims and stuff your claims into the object before B2C ever issues it, and then you don't have to worry about storing that data on your own database at all. So anyway, but no, I think it was good. We'll publish up this fork of this code, I guess, and try to clean it up a little bit. But I'd say for the first one, it wasn't bad, right?
No, it only took us, I think it was 6 hours yesterday and about 2.5 hours today to go through the whole process. Yeah. Initially, we thought it would be a 2-hour stream. So the best plans are the ones that fail when you actually try to do them. So we adapted and we worked out what the problems were. We took some time yesterday to clear our minds, because we're going through around in circles trying to work out what the problem was. And for next steps, I think we do have a couple of action items. One is to make sure that we publish the code, and we might even write a blog post around it to cover some of the points that we discussed today. So when people refer to how do I migrate my ADAL to MSAL ASP.NET app, then they can find a reference there for them to work, and sample code as well. Yep. Perfect. Well, thanks everyone for joining the stream.
Yeah, and we're doing office hours tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern?
11 a.m. Eastern time, 8 p.m. Pacific time, and 4 p.m. UTC.
We got office hours Thursday, 11 a Eastern, 8 a Pacific, 4 p UTC. Is that 3 p British summertime?
Yeah. I like how you operate on 4 different time zones. Why are you singling out the British? They're not that special.
I don't know.
Well, I come from the UK, so it's nice to have that reference,
And then what is it like? Is that 4 or 5 p.m. Central European time?
No, that would be, I think it's 4. That would be 5 p.m. CES. So Greece, maybe Romania as well. That time zone there.
All right. Well, cool. Thanks for joining us today, everybody, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd say that, but We'll be back tomorrow. So,
stay safe, everyone.
see you, everybody.